Hello and welcome to our first episode of Building a Chat App. We're going to be using pretty much just JavaScript and a technology, or I don't know if it's worthy of being called a technology, but we're going to be using Socket.io, and we're going to make a Socket server to pass our messages back and forth. And there's not a whole lot to it actually. Um, I remember when I first wanted to learn how to make websites, this was like the holy grail, the thing I thought, if I could just make what's on my computer talk to what's on his computer across the world, then what couldn't I do? And I found out that if you can do that, you can do anything. So, so look at the technologies we're going to use. JavaScript. Some people call jQuery a technology or a library or I don't know what they call it, but it's just more JavaScript. It's just it's just JavaScript. Node is JavaScript for the back end. Um, if you've never done Node and you're intimidated by doing stuff on a server, Node is a great place to start because you're just using JavaScript. Um, and the concepts are what's different, and they're not extremely different. You're going to understand them immediately, and you're going to be able to code them immediately because it's in Node, and you're going to be so surprised of how little code it takes in the back end to make this work, this chat room work. It's going to be a little more than a chat application because I did a little like a prototype, and the Socket.io, the code for it was like so minimal that I wanted to add more. So here's what I'm going to do. This is kind of a wireframe. It actually works, but it's a wireframe of what we're going to do. We're not going to have names. We're going to have avatars. And the reason I implemented this, or I want to implement this, is mostly because it's going to give us another opportunity in the back end to use Socket.io. There's more information to pass back and forth. There's more logic going on because honestly, it was going to be so minimal that it wasn't that impressive. Another thing, we're not going to be using a database. Like if a lot of times when you hear a full stack application, you're thinking front end, back end database. So I don't know if this counts as a front end or a full stack application because we aren't using a database. We're not using a NoSQL and it's a NoSQL and a NoMongo database. And I've said this before in my other series that I'm going to put this on GitHub, and I forget. I'm not going to let myself forget this time. So let's look how this works. Okay. Select an avatar to enable the message. So if I start trying to type right here, I'm right here trying to type. It's not working. I'm going to select an avatar, and I had made some other cooler ones like Thor and Superman and all those guys. But I don't know if that's smart to put that. Use other people's pictures. I know I can use this handsome guy's picture. I have his permission, and then these ones are pretty innocuous. So I'm some wooden shoes. And when I clicked it, this went away. Now, you might say, well, it isn't obvious that you can start typing there. And dang it, you're right. Which leads me to another thing that I'm just going to interrupt and explain that now. I'm intentionally not calling this a tutorial. I've called some of my other series tutorials, and maybe I have imposter syndrome, but I thought I can't be teaching tutorials. People are going to think that my word is gospel. People are going to think that, well, this one guy on YouTube said. I got some feedback on some code I wrote on one of my tutorials, and it wasn't. The guy said I was mixing. Said I did something that didn't follow best practices, and he was totally right. And I thought maybe I should defend it, and here's why it's okay. But then the bigger picture was, if it's a tutorial, I should be following best practices. So I don't want to call this a tutorial. I'd like to call it live coding. However, I'm recording this, so it isn't live coding. I mean, it is to me now, and I'm going to be coding it on the fly, but you guys aren't going to be there with me. However, you could be kind of there with me if when I put it into GitHub, and you guys can see my code there, and you can see it episode by episode grow. Maybe that is one way. If you guys do pull requests on my and you improve my code, because I'm just telling you, this is just the way I'm seeing it. This is what's occurring to me right now. Um, but I would like to sort of do this paired programming through time. Like I'm writing this, I'm explaining my thought process, I'm showing you the keyboard shortcuts I know, and you put comments in or whatever saying that was a dumb way to do it, or that was a cool keyboard shortcut, or whatever it is you want to say. Um, but back to showing this, I'm going to type something like um, uh, uh, that's what I'm going to type. And I hit enter. And this is the common area that everyone that's hooked up to the chat room sees. Well, since I'm the sender, it's over here. This is my avatar's over here, and my message is right here. Now, if I was a receiver, I would like to have it so my message is over here, and my avatar is over here, and the message comes out right here. And in fact, let me this right here. Okay, that's funny. So I actually have 4 windows open. I have this one on this desktop, and these 3, which I didn't really realize that message was going to come to these 3, but hey, of course it would. So that guy has the wooden shoes avatar. I'm going to refresh this, okay? And since there is no database, when he came online, he doesn't see any comments that were being made first. He just starts from jump. But there's one thing he can't do. If you look down here, he can't take the wooden shoes because someone already has that avatar. He'll take this handsome guy and he'll say howdy. So see how for him it's on this side, but it's showing up on this side for these guys that are receiving it. So all I did, by the way, to make this work is I opened up 3 different browsing windows. Well, actually, counting this one right here, 4. See, there's my howdy. And as many as you open up, I can do that many people in the chat room. Now this guy, here's something that we can improve, because I just did a really quick prototype to do this. When I click that, this guy can also pick that guy, can he? Or, well, it looks like he can. So, and I think I want to do away with this altogether. Here's choose your avatar. Well, I chose the dang guy. So why is this here now? It's just here to, can I choose another one? If I choose that, does it let me? Nope, it still came up as this handsome guy. So I'm not a UX designer, but someone might say, what's the point of having this here after you choose them? And that hypothetical UX designer, I'm gonna take his comment to heart. What I think I'd like to do is once I choose somebody, this disappears, it enables this, and maybe I'll have on the other side, I'll have appear who is in the room. So I would see an avatar for whoever. Let's see what avatar this guy even has. He has the wooden shoes. Is that possible? I think they can both have the wooden shoes. This guy has the wooden shoes. Another thing, I see what's happening. You see why these are both on this side? I have these opened in a different, look, if you look at the how I opened this one and how I opened these 1, 2, 3, these are all the guys with the wooden shoes. What if I refreshed it? What if I try that? Okay. But I think these were looking at the exact, these were acting like one browser, I think. But I did open this one a different way before I started. Okay, so enough of that. A chat room is cool, but it isn't really cool when your computer is the browser. I mean, when your computer is the server, because then you can have this window talk to that window. And it's only cool, or it gets way cooler at least, when you deploy it. So before this series is done, we are going to deploy the back end. That's the server code we're going to deploy to Heroku. Now, if you go back here, where did I have that? If we go back here, Control Command F. I'm toggling my full screen. I'm going back. By the time we're done, Control Command F again, Right now we have JavaScript and sockets, and I put Node and jQuery here as other ones. Really, we're going to have several. I mean, hey, we're going to have HTML, CSS. I said we're going to have Heroku. When we use Node, we're going to have something called npm, and got sockets. And I'm going to put this on GitHub, so I'm going to have maybe like these little badges for all the technologies we end up using. And each of these technologies is something that you can put on your resume. Once you feel comfortable with Socket.io, put it on your resume. If you understand Git, make sure that's on your resume. People really expect you to know Git. If you know what npm is all about, people are gonna appreciate that. Okay, so how should we start? Where should we go from here? I am going to. I told you we're going to make a GitHub repo. Let's start there. I got a little icon. There you are. Here is, I did not remember oh yeah, I remember putting that there. I'm actually going to make two different repositories, one for the front end and one for the back end. And honestly, the front end is probably going to have more code to it, more files. Okay, so I'm going to hit right now, okay, new repository. And we need to give this repository a name. And I thought long and hard about this, and I want to call it Chatvatars. And I doubt that's copyrighted because it's really lame. That says Vaders. Chatvatars. And the description, our cool socket.io, let's say .io, chat app. Public, initialize this repository with a README, sure. Create repository. Now, so I'm doing this live because I know someone out there has never used GitHub and maybe you've avoided it. You make a GitHub account, and that was how I just made a repository. Now you might be still wondering what you're going to do with it. So here's my first file. It gave me a README file because it gave me the option, do you want one or not? And here's what's in it. If I click it, it's just going to say this, which it already says, our cool Socket.io chat app. But now I have it on my machine. I mean, in GitHub. This is up in the cloud. I want to have it on my local machine. So it says clone or download. I'm gonna clone it. So I'm gonna go to right here, copy to clipboard. And now I'm gonna go to, I'm gonna open this, a new window, because I think I have like 4 of these windows open. Okay. You may need to install, okay, I'm going to go back to that. Git clone. How about if I just hit Command V? I want to make a clone of that repository. So if I type in git clone Command V, let's see if that does it. Cloning into Chatvatars. Now, this git thing right here, this isn't something that's just a regular command. You have to install it, or it's very easy to. While we're letting this thing do its thing, I have the slowest interconnection in Colorado, or the nation. Download Git. There's different forms of Git. You might find Git for Windows. You might find, and this symbol means these are branches happening. This is a Git symbol. I mean, it's easy to, for Windows, for Mac. I'm using mine in the command line, as you can tell. I'm using mine right here, but there's other programs you can. There's like, I don't know, Git extensions is something I use at work, where we use it. It's just all visual and it's very nice actually. But I still know how to do it with the command line. Let me hit command. Okay, zoom in for you guys who have eyes as bad as me. So now I cloned it. So if I hit ls, and that's showing me what I have in this directory. I got a whole bunch of stuff, but if you notice, chatvatars. So I'm going to change the directory into chatvatars, and now notice that this showed up. Before I just had the root directory. Now I have this. It's because it understands that this is a Git repository. So I can do Git in this, and I can save stuff here, and whenever I want to, I can push that stuff up to here. And the beautiful thing about Git is it is a version control system. What that means is I can have branches. This right here, in these parentheses, I'm on the master branch. And I'm probably going to just create a few files in the master branch. And then right away, I'm going to branch off of that branch, do things on it. And as you do commits, that's when you save. Your commits are what counts. It isn't your control S's or saves. Your commits save things to your repository, and every time you have a commit, no matter how far you go, you can always roll back to your last commit. And you can switch branches, and you can see what each branch is done. So what's the advantage of a branch? There's many advantages. One of them is, like, let's say you want to try out an idea. So you make a branch off a master, and you call that branch a new idea. And you do something, you commit it, you do something, you commit it, and you realize, oh, this isn't going to work at all. And you throw it away. Well, just go back to your master branch and you don't have to worry about it. But if your new idea was brilliant, 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 and you wanted to bring it into your master branch, then you just switch to your master branch and you merge the other one into it, and it takes in all of those changes. Another great reason to have Git, and this is probably the best reason actually, is multiple people can work on a project at the same time. But that takes a little coordination. If two people are working on the same file at the same time, and one is adding lines to that the other guy is deleting, or one is modifying lines that the other guy is just modifying differently or deleting altogether, you're going to have what's called, what's that thing called? Oh, a merge conflict. When they try to merge those things into the master branch, it's going to say this doesn't make sense. So you got to be careful about that. But once you understand, you make some little ground rules of who's going to change what. It's a great way for people to work around the world on the same project. And on my job, I used to have merge conflicts all the time. I'd bang in my head, cussing at my computer, cussing at people. And then one day it all just clicked, and I haven't had a merge conflict in months. Okay, so if I looked at what's in here, ls, I got that README file. Well, I am going to want an index.html file. And I am going to want an CSS file. And I'm going to want an app.js file. Now if I and the editor I'm using, by the way, is Atom. Command not found app.js. So I did not, I didn't say touch. But in my app.js file. Okay, so now if I say ls, there's my files. And now if I say git add, and I have is it dash all? I think I can say dot a, man, the dot capital A. Well, it'll give me an error if it doesn't make sense. Git add a. Git add a. git add a. Whew, I think I just added all my files. And now I want to commit those files, so I say git commit. That looks wrong. And you have to add a commit message. So my message is just going to be initial commit. The idea with the commit message is they're going to give me an ID with this. It's going to be like 95 digits long, and it's not very memorable. But if I want to say, if you name your branches and name your commits, then it's easier to roll back. Okay, so now is the good part. First, I'm going to switch over to here. Did they have any? So I clone this. What happens if I say git push origin master? Do I have to set origin because I cloned it? I could do git in the command line, but I haven't done it in a while. So here's what git push origin master says. I am pushing my changes to the origin, which is like the default name of this. I could have named my branch out in the cloud anything I wanted. And I am pushing to origin this master branch. So it says it worked. So let's go from this window to this window, and I'm going to refresh it. And now you see I have these 3 empty files up in GitHub. And here's my branches. So let's say, okay, if this is intimidating, just bear with it for a while. It definitely intimidated me, intimidated all my friends too at first. You just get used to it, and you get used to it by seeing it over and over. But there's other things this can do, and I don't want to get too overwhelming, but you can become a collaborator. And I really wish it had to, well, of course I can't become a collaborator on my own site, but if you come and look at from yours, you come and you put in this, you're going to see what I'm seeing. You can see my GitHub repo, and you can ask to be added as a contributor or as a collaborator. Actually, there's 2 different things. And what that means is you can do what's called pull requests, which means you can look at this and say, oh yeah, your code's bad here, and you can fix it, and you can do a pull request, which means you want it to be merged into the master branch. We'll get there. So we haven't done any coding at all, and I think I like it that way. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, and I think I'm going to stop the video now, and I will see you will start coding the front end in episode 2.